Hi everyone, my name is Kosi. I'm 22 years old and I am not a virgin, but I'm practicing celibacy.
Hi, my name is Julian Jordan. I'm 22 years old from the University of Georgia, and I am a virgin, but I've had experiences and I am abstinent.
My name is Thomas. I'm 26. I am not a virgin, but I'm practicing celibacy.
Thank you guys so much for that introduction and just letting us know a little bit about yourself. So you guys mentioned whether you're a virgin or not. So my question to you is, how do you define virginity?
I define virginity as not being intimate with anybody else. And I see that as not being intimate with yourself in terms of masturbation. I define that as no oral sex with anybody or no penetration or doing something that you know that is kind of tiptoeing on the line. If you have to ask yourself, am I still a virgin doing this? Then I think that you should be doing it.
I think I define virginity as like anything that has the word sex in it. So if it's oral sex or like penetration, I think that is how I would define virginity.
I define virginity as someone that has not penetrated at all.
Okay. So with your definition of virginity, if I ask the question again, are you a virgin, what would your response be? Would it be the same?
Yes.
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 All right, so how would you define celibacy then?
Someone that abstains from sexual desires. For me, if my definition of being a virgin is not having sex, that would be my definition of being celibate. That's my stronghold. So that would be my thing I would be celibate of.
I think there's levels to celibacy. The first level, I would say, is just verbally confessing to you and God, saying, I'm not going to have sex. Then there's the next level, actually following through with that commitment. Because I believe that there's different maturities in your celibacy. There's some people that actually don't have sex at all. Some people that mess up from time to time. But it's just that knowing in your heart, I don't want to be doing this. I'm not just going to say, forget it, I want to have sex. But saying, I'm going to actually try and do this with God.
I think I would define celibacy as not doing things sexually, like from masturbation to any kind of other sex. I think that's how you really walk in celibacy.
So next up, I want to talk about some misconceptions or lies that guys have about sex, especially Christian guys. So the first one is you have to have experience or bodies to prove your manhood.
I would first address that by saying, why does that make you a man? Just to be really introspective and think, how is that considered to be a man just because you have bodies? Where does that actually, where does that come from? And if you would look at it, you're like, that's probably coming from lies the enemies have spread or from the media. Because if we're professing to be believers, then our standard should be from the Bible. And what it means to be a man in the Bible never talks about having body counts. And I would just really encourage you to think about how powerful it is to truly just be self-control and obey the creator of the universe that's given us everything.
I think that you really have to look at where you're getting your definition of manhood from. And it's hard because in society we get a lot of our different definitions from those around us. But when you change your perspective to get that definition from the Word, I think that's when you really start to understand what manhood is now and what it's been generations before us, from people who have been alive since, Solomon, people that are way back before our time. And I think the main characteristics that you see in those men are patience, self-discipline, respect, not just for others, but for yourself. And I think that goes a lot further in demonstrating your ability to be a man in a family or in any other setting than it does to just, fall into a temptation or something that leads to end up having sex or something like that.
Now, another misconception that guys have about sex is that it's not worth the wait and that you have to test drive the car, so to speak, before you buy it. What do you guys say to that?
First thing that came to mind was Megan Good and her husband wrote a book. And he wrote primarily much of the book. And he said if a man can be celibate, he can do anything. And that's just always driven me to think that if I could have a self-control so strong, I could accomplish anything. Because all the guys that have had sex or thought about having sex, you know how powerful that force is. It kind of controls you. And I always wanted to be like, hey, I abstained from that. Like, I had self-control, whether it be from celibacy or just not having sex at all, just to know that my body wanted to do something and I said no.
I think that the wait can be is worth it when you look into what you want to invest in your future. And I think when you look at it, like let's say you have sex with a girl one night and then you don't see her again. And in that moment, it's pleasurable. It feels good. You're like, okay, that was a great experience. But down the line, it's like there's nothing that you're gonna get later on because of that experience. It's not unless you like you're not building a relationship with him. You saw him, you might not see him again, and it's like you got something momentarily that's not gonna last for forever. Whereas when you wait and you instill that discipline to have an investment, it's almost like all of that patience can be released into a relationship with the woman you choose to be with or your wife, and it's going to be investing in something. You're going to become stronger as a couple. You're going to be able to see and how to break through issues you guys are having, and it's more of something that becomes powerful. And I think when you have patience, the wait is worth it because you learn how to use it in that way.
That's really good.
I would say it is worth the wait, only because after you've done it, it's like, what's next? I mean, is it worth that 5 seconds? Because any guy's first time won't be long. It'd be quick. 2 pumps most. And so, and you realize you get to this point, it's like, this wasn't worth it. Yeah, the 2 pumps felt good in that moment, but it's just a moment me and my wife could have shared if I would have waited. Me personally, I thought I could have waited. It was worth the wait later on. So if I can go back again in time, I would say, she's cute, she's bad, but I can wait. And so me personally, I think it is worth the wait, those who are waiting, because at the end of the day, there's only 2 pumps.
I would add on to that, kind of how we touched on his personal experience. Like for me, looking back on it, it wasn't worth me sacrificing my virginity. Like I gained nothing. People will say, well, you gain experience. But the thing about it is, if you gain experience by having sex with all those women, you could have gained that same experience by having it with just your wife. Like, this isn't rocket science. There's so many books on sex. There's so many people that claim to be the guru of sex. So you're thinking that you can't figure it out with one woman and you have to have all these other women. So that's what I would add.
So another misconception is that it's impossible to be a virgin or stay celibate in this generation, especially if you have already had sex and know what it feels like.
It's possible. Waiting, because whatever the reason you wait will keep you. Me personally, why I want to be celibate is because when I wasn't, I made bad decisions. I find myself in weird predicaments, and I realized it took me places I don't want to go back to. So for that reason, I want to be celibate, because I don't want to go back to those places or find myself in a situation that's going to either take my life or put me in a situation where I have a child or something I can't come back from. And so that's why I do it. Another reason why is like my wife, I don't want her to keep ever thinking like, am I worse than the last person? Am I better than the last person? And I want my next one to be her, so I want to prepare myself for her. And so that's why I think your reason makes it possible to be a virgin or be celibate, because if you want to say, I want to honor God with my body as a virgin, that will hold you in those moments when temptation feels overwhelming, that it's unchangeable. This girl was in your face, she's in your house, she keep DMing you, and she want it. But your reason will keep you from falling. So I think it is possible.
I would say that it's, coming from a point of celibacy, can't talk about, waiting as a virgin, that it's definitely possible. You just have to have an actual goal in mind. If you go on there saying, I'm going to be celibate, you're probably going to fail. You need to do some research. You need to talk to people, because the moment you make that declaration, the enemy's coming after you.
True.
He's going to put a girl that you used to talk to. Girls are going to start magically looking better. Like, you really have to have a goal in mind. Hey, this is how I'm going to be celibate. For me, I know one of the things I started was like, okay, I'm not going to see this person after 10 p.m. or 11 p.m. because kind of have to have those boundaries to protect yourself against yourself. Because if you're in that situation, you know what you did before, you're going to do it again. So don't give yourself that opportunity to do something that you know you would probably fail on. If you think about Joseph in the Bible, when he saw Potiphar's wife, he ran. He didn't say, oh, close yourself. He said, yo, she probably looks good, and if I stay a little bit longer, I might mess up. So just know yourself.
I think that although I haven't had sex, I've dealt with masturbation and pornography before, And I think that one of the biggest things is even in that arena, it's kind of like, one thing is you can't be as tempted by something you're not exposed to. So it's easier for me because I haven't been exposed to sex like that. So it's not going to be as much of a temptation. But in the same way, the sexual realm is, it includes a lot of things. And I think the truth is just that it's definitely possible to overcome anything. It's always possible. And the biggest trick of the enemy, whether you're trying to overcome masturbation or sex or tampering with sex, is that you have to know that it is. And I think the enemy always wants you to think, you know what, at the end of the day, it's going to happen again. There's no way around it. You know, there's even research that says stuff like, as a man, if you don't, do things sexually, you're damaging your health, and stuff like that. And I think that is just important to know it is possible. But like Cozy was saying, you definitely have to set yourself up in the right environment and with the right tools to get through it.
I would add a verse that really helped me. It was that, who the sun sets free is free indeed.
I thought about that too.
That really was a powerful verse for me to just meditate on that. And by meditating, it's just constantly reminding myself, when I felt like, man, I've already did it, what's the point? I would hear that verse and I'd say, like, you're free, Cozy. Like, you're still a virgin in my eyes. Like, because we live a grace-based relationship. God's not looking at you like, oh, you had sex, you're damaged good, I don't care if you follow me. He wants you to follow him. Because obedience, whenever you're doing, it's still obedience. He wants you to follow him. That's how we show our love to him. So just find a verse as well that really helps you and motivates you to keep going.
And also, if you do start this path of celibacy, and then if you fall, get back up and start over again. Nobody's perfect, and everybody's trying to strive to be better. Don't be down on yourself because you fall, because you made a vow to God and you didn't, meet that expectation. It's okay. Just get back up and push and keep going. Don't let the devil say, oh, since you messed up, you might as well just go back.
Is when you mess up or when you make a mistake, not feeling like you have to keep kind of innocent. I think sometimes when you mess up, you feel like, you know what, let me just keep doing this for now because I already messed up. But I think it's one of the most important things to recognize that at the moment you mess up is the same moment that you need to start again.
One of the things he mentioned is one of the concepts we call sin consciousness, is where the enemy will keep reminding you of your sin so you'll stay in your sin. The thing about it is we have a grace-based relationship with Jesus. So the moment you make a mistake, he's washed away all of your sins. So think about that love when you're looking at yourself. Don't look at yourself in that negative light like I'm no good. Think of yourself like I'm still a child of God. I messed up. God didn't like that, but he still loves me.
Now, you guys kept saying that it is possible to be celibate. But how is it possible? Outside of, yes, God can help you with that, but as a man, what are some practical ways that you feel will help for you to actually stay celibate? And even if you do mess up, how do you get back up?
I think you got to know your triggers. Everybody's different. Me personally, what gets me going, I like strip clubs. Well, I used to dabble in strip clubs, so when I go there, that triggers me to go and have sex. And so if I see a particular person, and I send a flirtation text out, and she responds a certain way, that will trigger me a certain way. So the thing is, if you know your triggers and how to maneuver around them, that can help you. What triggers somebody else doesn't trigger me. A girl texts me, what you doing, doesn't trigger me. But seeing her dance, and she dancing on me, that's a trigger. So I think you got to know your triggers and stay away from those triggers and be aware of those triggers when it comes. And that's how you maneuver around and maintain celibacy. And if you fall, most of the time, somebody said when you fall, most of the times I know when I fell, I wanted to fall. It wasn't like, oh my God, I failed. It was like, no, I'm going to go and do this. And it was no consciousness. I clicked God off. It was like, God, I know what you're saying. I know what I vowed, but I'm going to go ahead and do this because I want it and she want it. So let's get this in. And so I personally think that stopped me or the hindrance of me falling. So if you don't have that mindset, you'll be all right. You got to know, is it your temptation or is it something that you want? Because we all might fall into temptation just normally because the devil comes to tempt us. But is it devil just tempting me or you falling purposely? And so you got to know which one is which.
I think that one of the biggest things is that really saying like, I don't know. I did this when I was struggling with masturbation. I said, God, I don't know what to do. You know what I'm saying? Like, please just show me what I'm supposed to do. Like, show me the way out because I don't have the answers. And I remember before when I would try to come up with every single thing I could, whether it's don't do this or don't delete Instagram or, I would always come up with my own plan, and then it would fail. And I really had to invite God and say, you know what, God, look, I don't have a plan, and I can't think of anything. I don't know what to do. I just pray you really, enter my heart and show me what that means. And I think with that, there's a lot of things to implement. Like some things there's some things that once you do, it's kind of like you're not gonna turn back. There's some things that once you dabble with, it's like you're not gonna turn back. And like Thomas was saying, identify what those are and really avoid those too.
Practical ways. I think the first one is having that mindset. If I mess up, I can start again. I think that just has to be number one. Is because you probably will start something and you'll mess up. You'll think, oh, I just did this. It's no use. And after that, the second thing is figuring out, because you kind of said find your triggers, and you're thinking probably, what if I don't know my triggers? Kind of see how your body reacts to certain things. Like when I listen to R&B music, like the new school people, they're very explicit, and that gets me feel some kind of way. And I'm like, God, what's up? He's like, you should be listening to this kind of music because it's intense. Yeah. Another one is, if you go to parties and girls got moves that they doing something to you, like he said, if you go to a strip club, that's his spot, you probably shouldn't be there either. So kind of just follow yourself. You can be really introspective. It's not that hard. You be like, okay, I'm getting kind of horny right now. Look what's making you horny right now. And that's like the practical steps for me was I stopped listening to certain kinds of music. On Instagram, I stopped following certain people because it was just polluting my mind with like images. I'm thinking like, oh wow. Yeah. And the next one was I just didn't go certain places that I knew that would tempt me to fall. Like I didn't go to any parties because girls can dance nowadays. So I think that it's not wise for me to see some of those things.
So the last misconception that we will kind of address is that masturbation is okay. What are your views on masturbation? What do you think about people who feel as if, well, I'm a virgin, but masturbation is fine because I'm not involving another person?
I think that one of the biggest things is that everything that you tamper with that has to do with sexuality is exposing your mind to things that really you shouldn't be exposing yourself to until you're married. So if you're dealing with masturbation or pornography or something like that, it's like you're still exposing your mind to all kind of things, all kind of ideas, all kind of expectations that realistically, when you get married, sex with your wife might be something completely different. And I think that there's just a lot of different areas where it's like when you start tampering with them, regardless of how far or what it is, it's exposing your mind to things you don't really need to see.
I think if you're looking at it from both perspectives, like, hey, I've never had sex, but I masturbate, and you're looking at pornography, because I don't think people just masturbate. Oh, well, cut.
That's a good imagery.
That's a good image. Just masturbate with nothing.
People do all, yeah.
Oh, okay.
So I mean, yeah.
All right, okay, I didn't know that. The way I thought about it was most people masturbate with an image in front of them. And I would say just putting that imagery in your head is going to get stuck there. So when you actually see your wife, you're having images that shouldn't be there. You're trying to like, okay, snap. This isn't that woman I saw in this movie. This is my wife. Right. You're trying to have these hyper expectations because it's going to make everything look super good to you just so that it can sell. So I think that's the danger of it, is just like polluting your minds with things that you're going to have to actively try to erase. Because there's people that have ruined their entire marriages masturbating. There's people that are addicted to masturbation where they can't do anything. Like, that's their main focus of their day. And I think if you're coming from the other side of saying, well, I'm just not going to have sex and I'm going to masturbate, which is something I thought about. I was just like, okay, God, I guess the solution is just I do it myself. Like, obviously. And then he really convicted me. He's like, you really think that that's what my solution is? Like, you're still having sex in a way. You know, I think if you look at the action of it, you're still mimicking the action, and God wants that self-control to be there. It's not the fact that it's only somebody there. It's the fact that he wants you to abstain from that pleasure because he's going to give you that satisfaction. And when you're married, you have free reign to just do it all you want and whenever you want.
Yeah. That's good.
So, with all of that being said, we know that Christ calls us to wait until marriage before we become one with someone. And even though some of us have messed up, there is redemption for that. Is there any advice that you would give right now to whether it's a man of God who is wanting to become celibate or who is a virgin and just struggling to stay on that path, or even if it's a non-believer who's just interested in what this whole conversation is about? Is there any advice or word of encouragement you would give to them?
I would say to really seek it out. 2 books that really changed my life for celibacy is one he recommended was The Wait. And once I read that, I was just like, wow, waiting for sex is so powerful. Like, I never thought about it as like, yeah, God wants me to do it, but why? And then the next book I read was The Naked Truth of Sexuality, which really just flipped the script on what sex even means. Because I never even thought about how powerful sex was, why we want sex, why we need sex, and how sex looks like when you combine the Holy Spirit or God with it. So just seek it out. Ask mentors that, good mentors, don't just ask anybody. Ask people that are actually celibate or know what the Bible says about waiting for sex, because there's a lot of people that you ask about sex like, yo, just do it. I don't even know why you're tripping. So ask people that understand the power of sex and find good videos. Hopefully you're watching this. We helped you guys out. And just let you know that it's a really powerful thing.
I think that if you're, the first step of course is inviting Jesus, or if you're already like a Christian, just praying and repenting and saying, God, meet me where I'm at right now. Like, I just really want you to come into my life. I think after that, one of the biggest things is, it's the Message version of Matthew 6:34. And he says, give your entire attention to what God is doing right now. And don't get worked up about what may or may not happen tomorrow. God will help you deal with whatever hard things come up when the time comes. And I think one of the biggest things is understanding that you don't need to compare yourself to someone else, like, oh, he's a virgin, or oh, he's celibate, or think about, well, am I ever going to be able to get there? I think the biggest thing is saying, what can I do right now? What can I do today? What can I, if I'm in a relationship that's unhealthy, that's causing me to sin, what steps do I need to take towards thinking about leaving it? And that's probably a thing to do, is leave it. Or if I'm in a situation where, I find myself getting tempted a lot, what can I do today to avoid that? And I think focusing on the now is one of the biggest things that you can do.
I think the best advice I would give is the goal is not to be perfect, it's to get better. You will never be perfect. I'm 26 now. As I walk the celibacy walk, have I made mistake? Yes. So the goal is never to be perfect. Don't be down on yourself because you're not perfect. The goal is to get better. Yes. And so that's something that I had to learn, something that I had to be delivered from, because I was big. I'm heavy on myself when it comes to shaming myself, saying, how can you mess up? How can you do this? Yeah. You know better. So I guess the goal is to remind yourself that you're not perfect. You're trying to get better, and you're going to get better. And not also that, and don't beat yourself because you are tempted. You're going to be tempted regardless. There's married men that are tempted. There's a single man you're going to always be tempted until you die. So don't be down on yourself because you are tempted. The goal is to remember that you don't have to fall into temptation. You don't have to choose it. You don't have to, because it's there, that you have to choose it all the time. But the goal is to overcome those temptations, to be better. And then when you do overcome it, celebrate. You say, God, a week ago, this would have got me, but this week it didn't get me. I see things like, I'm like, yo, a week ago, if this girl would have came to me saying this, I would have been having sex with her, but now I'm not. So you want to celebrate your victories, and not only just focus on your losses, but celebrate your victories, because the celebration of your victories gives you more confidence and help you realize you can overcome. You can be better, and also share your stories. I mean, it's honestly us three coming here. We never thought we would do something like this. I know I would never share my sexual life to nobody, especially on the screen. I got a mother that's beyond me. Anyway, but share your story, because somebody is needing your story to get the strength to move on. I mean, everybody struggle. Every man has struggled with some form of lust, whether it's masturbation, whether it's pornography, whether it's sex, even if it's being gay. Everybody always struggle with something. Somebody struggling with something in their life. So share your story that can help them. Don't be selfish and keeping your story to yourself because you worry about what people may think, what shame it might bring, which God can use anything. So just share that. And so that's the advice I have.
That's good.
So I'm curious, Would you marry a girl who wasn't a virgin? Why or why not?
Yes, I would. And the criteria I have behind, I guess the reasoning I have behind that is that the person God wants for you, I've never seen in the Bible where it said that person has to be a virgin. I think the reason God sends you somebody is because He wants that person. He needs that person to be the person. Dang, that's not it. I'm trying to say, the person God has for you is the things that He wants you to accomplish in your life. So I don't see where being a virgin is completely necessary in that package. For me, I don't see where that's necessary. Maybe it is for somebody else where they need 2 virgins to have a ministry of virginity until they die. But for me, God doesn't need me to have a virgin because I feel like the things that God needs from me is not attached to virginity.
Me, it's not an issue. First off, I'm not a virgin, so I can't say you have to be one when I wasn't, and I'm not one. Uh, and also, like, it's your love is bigger than that. Like, when God puts you with somebody, it's not because they have similarities. It's for you to accomplish a goal, whatever that goal is in life. That's why He put you with that person to do something. And so it's not determined by this person like this music, or He put you because they like this, because their sexuality. They didn't sin this way. Y'all have the same sin.
That's it.
So when God puts you with somebody, it's not determined by their sexuality, their preferences, or what type of music they like. It's about having a common goal and accomplishing that for His will. So He's not factoring in because this person is a virgin, I want you to be with this person. It's about you being compatible to accomplish whatever goals that He's placing you in that person's life, and y'all both accomplish those goals together. So me personally, it's not a problem for me, the girl, to be a virgin, or if she's not a virgin. So it's not an issue for me.
I think for me, I think that I would marry someone who wasn't a virgin because the biggest thing that I look at is the character that a woman has, or their reason, stuff like that. But one thing I will say is that I don't want to undermine the value of a woman being a virgin. And I think that the truth of the matter is that someone who has their virginity, or a woman who has their virginity, it's something that is really prized, and I think that's just a motivational factor for females who still have their virginity to keep it. Because it definitely is something like, well, if it's not that big a deal, I think it's something that is really admirable. It really I think it can bring a blessing. If 2 people are virgin, I think it can bring a blessing into a marriage, just from an experience that is hard to get otherwise. But at the same time, for people who aren't a virgin, I think that it's all about your character. And I think that God works in miraculous ways. He heals the brokenhearted. He does a lot of things to where people who are broken, or have experiences or things like that, there's no reason for you to take that as a sign that a woman is not who you need to be with. Because there's a lot of different things or ways that God heals. So that's kind of my perspective on it.
I have a question. Do you look at a virgin and a girl that has had sex differently, or do y'all see it both the same?
I think if like all the girls in the room would be like, I'm a virgin, I'm not a virgin, I would think like, wow, they have a lot of self-control. But I wouldn't see their value more in life as anything different. That would just be the thought that came to my mind, is like, wow, you have a lot of self-control.
Okay.
I think for me, I definitely would see. One thing I'll say, well, I think for this, I definitely would feel a sense of, in terms of like an attraction, I feel like I might be more drawn to someone off of firsthand who says they're a virgin, because I might see elements of character. But one thing I will say is this: I feel like if there's a girl who's a virgin and she's like, I ask her and she's like, okay, well, I've never really had an opportunity and I'm really kind of waiting to lose it, but right now I'm a virgin. Versus a girl who's like, I've had the chance, but I've really tried to maintain it. If a person were to tell me that, they have their virginity, but they're just kind of trying to find a way to lose it, I would, that's something that would, that wouldn't be valuable to me at all. I think the only reason that I would have a sense of wow, it wouldn't be about value. It's not about value. It's more a sense of awe. It's more a sense of wow, a sense of respect. It's like, for someone to say that they've done that because they've chosen to out of self-control will make me just be like, wow, that's something I really respect. Yeah. And I think the question I have too is like, as a guy, if you're with a girl who is not a virgin, or something of that, like, yeah, that idea. What are your thoughts, or what is your process in terms of how you perceive that? Is it something you have to overcome? Is it something that's just kind of like, okay, cool, or what are your guys' thoughts on that?
I think I don't know if this is a confidence thing or insecurity thing, but for me, I did wonder, like, are you thinking about so and so? Will you be thinking about so and so? Like, will I be good enough? So I know that was something I struggle with. I don't know if that's something you can avoid if you're just completely whole in God, because I wasn't. But I know as I've grown in God, as I've grown in my relationship, that those thoughts kind of went away. Because I had more security in who I was. I knew that when God brings two people together, no matter what the circumstances is, God makes wholeness. Doesn't matter what the brokenness has been, but God always uses redemption and grace to bring about the full package. Because Christ died for all of our sins, future, past, and present. So that kind of that allowed me to see it in the full picture. Like, okay, this isn't the end of the world just because we made a mistake. Like, if that's the case, then that's going to be a sad life for me. Like, I can't make any mistakes unless people are always going to see me this way. And that really brought me to see women that way as well. Like, they just made a mistake, You can go past that.
I ain't gonna lie. I'm like, oh, you too? Oh, okay. I'm like, whew, I can be free. I can be honest. Me, it's not an issue. It's not an issue if she's a virgin or not. I mean, if she's not a virgin, it's not an issue with me, because at the end of the day, I mean, think about reality and the society we live in. 7 out of 10, or at least 6 out of 10 women you meet, are not virgins. So be realistically outside of the context of Christianity, even in the church, like it's the rarity is finding somebody who is one, more so who's not one. So it doesn't bother me. Yeah, I don't think of them. It doesn't strike me. Pause. But it's cool. I just be like, oh, you too.
Yeah. I'm gonna look a little. I mean, for me, I remember I'm in a relationship where I was with someone who wasn't a virgin, and it was a process of me really understanding, like, what does that mean. I would be online looking at stuff like how to what did I type in? What did I say? I said, like, how to deal with if your girlfriend's a virgin or something, not a virgin. And man, I tell you, I find all kind of stuff online. There's all kind of stuff online. One thing is, if you have an issue with your relationship, don't go online, because it really scares you. It really does.
That's
it scares
true.
you.
That's true.
Man, I had people saying stuff like, "Man, I'm 53 and I still feel cursed. I feel hurt." They'd be saying stuff. I was so scared, man. But they would be saying stuff like, I've been married. I ain't forgot it since the day I got with her. It's been 20 years. And I just would be so terrified. Like, man, am I ever going to be able to deal with this? I'm serious, but I think one of the biggest things that I learned was that if you really give it to God, that no matter what someone has been through, whether even sexually, whether it's been anything outside of sex, someone having a past, there's power in following God that truly extends past what culture says is okay to get past, or what culture says, after this amount, or after this girl does this, you can't. It's hard to be with them. And I've really learned that it is hurtful, and it can be. The different guys, some like comments you say you don't really, but it can be hurtful to some people. Like, man, I don't want to have to learn about this, and it's hurtful. But the truth of the matter is, if you really surrender it to God, and by surrendering it to God, that means telling yourself, I'm not going to let my predisposition on how bless you, on how impossible it is for me to get over this come between me saying, God, well, maybe you can do something. And I think in that, it's true that no matter what someone has been through, virgin, not virgin, I don't know about other stuff, but I think that it's really possible to see how you can love them regardless, and that's what I've learned.
And to add on to that is, it showed me that there's power available in God that we don't even know about.
True.
The verse that comes to mind is like, count it as joy when you face trials and tribulation, because afterwards your faith will have endurance. Mm-hmm. And it just showed me, like, once I faced certain things, once I gave certain things to God, I saw, like, wow, God, you can really help me through that. Because when I was in middle school or high school, I wasn't going through anything. And then once I went through some stuff, I'm like, wow, this God thing is real. Like, he can give you strength to do things that you never thought you could. And what does it mean to, like, give it to God? I think, for me, it's just surrounding yourself with other believers that will encourage you, that won't be like, man, when I was 53, man, shoot, I'm still living on the curse. Like, giving you the grace, base, and love that God gave us when Jesus died on the cross. And also just spending time in your word, and you seeing how every time there's something broken in the Bible, God fixes it. And also talking to mentors that want to encourage you and see you thrive. Like, that's how I see surrendering to God and giving it to God. It's like, God, help me. And go to the place where you know you can get quality information.
Not the internet.
Not the internet. Not the internet, no.
Or Facebook.
But this on the internet.
It's true.
Some stuff is good on the internet.
Nah, I'm talking about Google.
No, I'm talking
Google.com.
about the litmus test for getting quality internet is it giving you grace and love, or are you feeling condemned after this? I feel like that's the way I judge it. It's like, man, do I feel empowered after this, or do I feel like, dang? Because God doesn't work like that. He's not out here defeating you like, shoot.
You have to know how to draw a line between comparisons.
Yeah.
Because you can't, that's probably you got to start comparing with others.
Yeah, can't compare, man.
You know what I'm saying?
Just close your eyes.
Yeah, bro.
That'll make sense.
Okay, so here's a question. What would you say to a young woman who is getting discouraged and waiting for a man who is wanting or even willing to wait?
Wow. What would y'all say?
There's guys out there that are looking for you. There's guys that will wait for you. 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. There's a guy out there that will wait for you. Who you are, your flaws, everything about you. Somebody's actually praying and waiting on you now. So just as much as you think you might find one, somebody's there praying for you. And he's waiting on you. For you to give him a chance.
I think it's really hard to see because, like, in reality, you don't see it a lot. But I think one of the biggest things is to really understand the idea of settling. And if that's what you want, it's not impossible for me. That's something that I really wanted to be able to give to the woman that I chose to be with, because I feel like in me being able to say I want to wait, even as hard as it is, I'm showing them a sense of respect that I have for them, and not just for something I can get with any girl. And I think that it's really hard every day walking and being like, oh, well, I still don't see anybody yet. But I think the question that you really have to ask yourself is if you choose something less than that, what are you really, it's a matter of understanding if you're settling or if you're not, and the reason why you want that. And so I think it's just really important to know that it's out there. There's definitely people out there. It's hard. It's not something that just comes easily. But if you trust God, I really believe that He'll show you the way that happen.
I would say to you, please wait. Because I know there's so many girls out there that have been hurt by guys because either they were lonely or it seemed as though there was no guys that were willing to wait till they settled for somebody, and now they have a story with some guy that had no business being with them, and then for the guy that was meant for you, he's going to have to help pick up those pieces in a way. So I would say, like, there's so many loving guys out there that they want a chance with you. They would wait for you. And I would just say, like, please wait, because it's worth it. And, like, I wouldn't want to see another woman out there hurt because they thought that there was no guy out there for them.
And as a guy, also, it's like, do you guys still value, like, what is your guys' perspective in terms of valuing that, in terms of wanting to do that? Is that something you want, or is that something you do just because she's asking it from you?
I think the guy already has to have in his mind that he wants to wait. I think it's, you can't say I'm only waiting because you asked me to wait, but you have to come in saying I'm celibate, I'm waiting regardless. I think that's easier. I think, me and Kosi are proof that, there's guys out there that are celibate, that's waiting regardless of a woman or not. That they want to be celibate, not for a woman's sake, but for their relationship to God to grow. So I think the reason behind waiting will keep you. I think if he's saying he'll wait for you, that's fine and dandy. But like, if he comes in saying I'm celibate because of this, this, and this, regardless of you there or not, I think that's better.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense.
Yeah. No, that's what I'm asking. I'm asking, like, a lot of times girls sometimes I feel like they have to assume this thing of I'm asking him a favor.
Yeah.
You know, like, oh well, do you mind if I'm gonna be a virgin? And it's like, is that something that they should approach in terms of a favor, or are there guys out there? Is that a perspective of actually like that's kind of like what Thomas was saying?
Yeah.
A guy who's like comes in like I'm gonna be celibate regardless if I'm with you or not.
I got you. I think it's definitely easier if you have a guy that's just on this journey. But if you do meet a guy that's willing to wait for you, I think that's also really powerful as well, because that shows that they love you enough to wait. Like that. Think about how powerful that commitment is. Like if you were to just think about the mind of a guy, I think they did some statistic like guys think about sex 70 or 80% of the time. Like they're saying, I don't want none of that. I just want to wait for you because you're worth it.
That's good.
That's so powerful.
And I think you guys both gave perspectives I wasn't even thinking of, but I also think that one of the biggest things is that there are guys out there who want to have that as well. So I think that that's something that sometimes seems like uncommon or something's wrong for a guy to be like, well, actually, yeah, I want to do that also. But I think that that's definitely something that exists too.